Ukraine, New World Order.
We're back. You thought you could get away from hearing about the Ukraine for just 1 second. Sorry, folks. This is coming from the Wall Street Journal opinion section, so you know it's going to be good. The headline is Ukraine War shows the rules-based international order is a myth.
Yeah, a lot of this talk, a lot of this globalism is dead or is reversing or whatever, that kind of talk. It's interesting.
You know, and there's a very interesting sort of subtle rhetoric happening here because for those sort of initiated into the pro-New World Order legions, I guess, rules-based international order is kind of just a different way of saying New World Order. And so very interesting headline here. The rules-based international order is a myth, kind of giving the impression like, oh, your New World Order crazy conspiracy theory. That's just, So let's continue, and there's more to say. The Biden administration has been vocal in defending what it calls the rules-based international order, but there is no such thing, you crazy conspiracy theorists. An earth-spanning security space governed by global rules or a few key powers doesn't exist. I mean, I love it. They just describe the New World Order.
I know.
Without using the words. As the war in Ukraine should remind us, there is also no global threat facing all states equally. Oh, talk to Greta about that. But rather,
I know. Are you denying that climate change is a real threat to the world?
It is the Wall Street Journal, but rather regional revisionist powers threatening nearby states. Temporary regional equilibria with their own power dynamics are driven by local historical competitions. They are unstable and prone to wars. They require persistent attention and management. Over the past 3 decades, these regional orders in Europe and Middle East and Asia have been relatively stable and the local competitions subdued. The resulting impression was of a world order. Liberals saw this global stability as the product of international rules, a growing number of democracies, and greater international trade, a rules-based order enhanced by democracies and commercial peace. Realists saw a world order underwritten by a rough equilibrium between the great powers, the U.S., Russia, and China, with nuclear weapons as an effective pacifying equalizer. Both visions of the world put too much emphasis on the global nature of this stability. If we look at the world through the lens of regional orders, the picture is more worrisome. Russia's wars in Georgia in 2008 and Ukraine since 2014, as well as Iran's actions in Iraq, Yemen, and Syria, and China's military expansion in Asia were signs of growing local volatility. But until now, these had been tentative pushes conducted by hesitant revisionist powers and checked by American power. Russia's war in Ukraine is the first full-fledged military offensive that aims to change the local balance of power drastically. Russia seeks to be the decisive power in Europe, and for that, it needs to dominate Ukraine. I hear your giggles. Would you like to share with the class?
No, I'm trying to follow you here, and these ads pop up of some kind of urinary tract infection thing. And it's just giant
Gonz.
Bladder on screen.
Yeah, you bet. Oh, the joys of live streaming. Yeah. But you know the algos, man. You should probably, go get some cranberry juice on your way to the store or something. Yeah. To continue, regional orders are fragile for 2 reasons. First, military force is more likely to be used in local contests than in disputes between distant rivals. The stakes are high for the local parties and perceived risks limited. A revisionist power is likely to pursue its goals, such as conquest of territory or control over a neighboring state's political life through war more than through negotiations. And the revisionist powers' targets won't accept a hostile takeover without a fight. In the end, both sides are interested less in preventing war than in making war usable for their own objectives. War is an enduring regional reality. Some pretty harsh realism coming here from the Wall Street Journal. This, just to make note, this phrase that they keep using, revisionist powers, sort of alluding to like kind of painting Russia in this case, in this context, not as some sort of like psychopathic, demented dictator with a personal stake in fighting a war with its neighbor, as like the mainstream news wants to convince you, but rather a state power with revisionists ends. Being, they want to redefine the relationships in their area. They see a different version of the world that could be better for them. It's this really specific new term being used to describe, what we all know as psychopathic, warmongers like Putin. No, they're just revisionists in this person's view of the world. The U.S. tends to think of stability as a broad goal of its grand strategy. As President Biden has said, the goal is to strive to prevent World War III. The goal is to strive to prevent, not to prevent, just to, look like you're trying. But regional revisionists in Eurasia aren't afraid of putting pressure on their own frontiers to extend their influence. The states they threaten will also choose war over submission, regional disorder over lost independence. The U.S. will have to figure out how to navigate, even embrace, instability and war in regions that are important to its national interests. The second reason regional orders are unstable is that local contests are geographically limited, but last a long time. Local conflicts are based on or justified by historical claims. Perceived or real offenses committed in the past generate desires for revenge, aspirations to grandeur, spur territorial demands, and national self-confidence motivates a stubborn hostility to aggressive neighbors. Whoa, it's a lot of words, folks. He's writing a lot of words. Who's the writer of this opinion?
I will check.
But what they are doing
is really glitchy on me. So
it's really glitchy on me too.
By the way, yes, that is a point that I wanted to make as part of this report here. Is at the very bottom of the article. My gosh, this page is just a disaster.
more urinary tract.
Oh my! No. It's just not loading properly. It's written by Mr. Greigiel, who is a professor at the Catholic University of America, a senior fellow at the Marathon Initiative, and a visiting fellow at the Hoover Institution. So he is plugged in.
He's in it, man.
He is plugged in, and it's funny because I did a 5-minute dig on like a little bit of this type of or actually Hoover Institution. Let's see if there's anything out there. There's a Hoover Institution website, hoover.org, and they actually have an article.
No, Hoover, that's a CIA outfit.
I know. They have a page here titled "Who Runs the World?" ? Written by Yosef Yofi in December 2016, and the whole article is about, hey, the conspiracy theorists, you guys call that there's a Jewish one world order, Freemasonic one world order. Hey, you guys are getting it all wrong. You know who the real people are? Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is the one taking over everything. It's like,
that's very interesting.
And then it's hilarious because in the comments of that page, people are like, the Goldman Sachs are run by a German Jewish descent. So, okay.
Watch
so
out, Mr. CIA, man.
Jewish people, but it's okay. All right. But anyway, yes,
bankers,
this guy's
man.
plugged in.
Bankers. They're the economic hitmen.
The author of this article is plugged in to all that.
Yes, he's very plugged in, and it makes sense that he comes from Hoover, a CIA sort of connected outfit, because what he's describing here is a very insider CIA way of describing geopolitics.
Right.
Because politicians and or the corporate news media, they are trying to paint this whole thing as very black and white. Putin's crazy. He's breaking the New World Order. That's bad. They try to convince us that we are in this some sort of utopia where global cooperation and agreement and trade sort of rule the world, and traditional geographical issues are no longer relevant. That's what we're being told over and over and over, and it's very easy. It's a convenient framework for the world for those who want to control you. However, you can tell this guy's plugged in because without being too obvious, he's very good at just being like, hey, there's a lot of stuff you don't know and you're not being told. And, geopolitical locality, relationships are in constant flux, constantly fighting each other. They have so many interests that have nothing to do with the global community. And
you don't even know what's going on. All the little wars from within or inside the countries. That is the business of the CIA. I mean, part of the big business of CIA is to smooth over those cracks between that form between the idea of a global community that all gets along and follows rules and the reality that is, countries are fighting each other all the time and they have interests between two neighbors that nobody else cares about, but it is of utmost importance to them. And the CIA's job is, they go in there and they use those little conflicts for the good of, for the quote unquote good of the U.S. for at least U.S. interests. This perspective, this perspective that he is so eloquently and very wordily describing is, the exact game board on which the CIA plays. This is the CIA rules that he is laying out for us here, which I appreciate. So thank you very much, whatever your name is. Let me go just a little bit further here. Local antagonists are willing to incur high costs, both when attacking, like Russia, and when defending, like Ukraine. The expectation is that the high risk will be rewarded with a high payoff. The aggressor anticipates greater influence or a larger territory, while the defender expects independence and greater security. For a distant power such as the U.S., the enduring nature of regional conflicts in Eurasia is a political challenge. Managing such conflicts requires consistent involvement and a permanent presence. Again, he's just describing the perspective of CIA. This is like a direct communication from Central Intelligence. It is, our job to manage the conflict with permanent presence and consistent involvement. And, it's a beautiful thing this man is bringing to us. But the U.S. approach is to participate in regional geopolitical dynamics only when necessary to restore an equipoise. I don't even know if that's the right way to say it. It's equipoise, and then to move to a different region. It's literally the mission of the CIA. I know.
Thus, we hear talking of uniting Europe, and he's putting quotes around this, talk of uniting Europe and pivoting to Asia. It is historically rare for a local contest to come to a permanent end.
Well, it would be. It wouldn't be good if the CIA would be out of it's just another place.
How would they get their funding for the next year?
They need conflicts between these local. They need the local conflicts. They thrive off of it. They get to look at it, assess both sides, see which side would be better to fund with weapons, and this has been the playbook for over a century for U.S. intelligence and spreading democracy worldwide.
Ever since the so-called rules-based international order started.
Right. I think the playbook for Russia-Ukraine is in the last two paragraphs here.
Yes, I'm going to read this one, and we're ending right now. So right. Where was I? It is historically rare for a local contest to come to a permanent end, usually only when a devastating war redraws the map in blood. The Franco-German conflict of the 19th and early 20th centuries turned into friendship only after 2 gruesome world wars. The end result was good for Europe, but getting there was tragic and something to be avoided. The current war between Russia and Ukraine will end at some point, but the contest between the two nations won't. The best that can be hoped for is a delicate local equilibrium, demanding constant maintenance through Western economic and military support of Ukraine. If Ukraine,
the hubris. Like, what?
Only we can end this.
There's no world international order. No, we are the police. We make sure everybody stays in line.
Exactly. If Ukraine survives Russian aggression as an independent state, the Biden administration's liberal temptation will be to call it a victory for world order based on rules and democracies. That would be a mistake. The victory will be Ukraine's, resulting in a moment of fragile regional stability and not in a renewed world order. So we have a direct message coming straight from the CIA saying, hey, yep, this will come to an end at some point, but the end will look like constant maintenance through Western economic and military support of Ukraine, saying it outright. We will be occupying Ukraine. We will be using Ukraine as a sort of forward operating base. We will be intimately involved and entwined in Ukraine for a very long time, and that's the way we like it.
No, the little twist in PR here is that last sentence: the victory will be Ukraine's. Really making it like own it, Ukraine. But it's really us that's helping you out with this whole thing.
He lays out the rules for victory. The rules for victory is military support, Western economic invasion, constant presence of intelligence and military from the U.S. That is the rules for victory. And Ukraine,
you win.
The victory will be yours if you just play along with the, what we've set out in front of you.
It's unreal.
It's a clear picture. This idea that this will end, all these talks about peace talks and blah, 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 not going to happen, folks. I mean, there may be peace talks. There may be some reports about the calming of the shooting, the pullback. We've already got news today of a pullback from the fighting in Ukraine. And it's all based around Ukraine's willingness to let Big Daddy U.S. come in and basically just use it. I mean, that's the thing here. And it's all done under this idea of Zelensky's a hero and we must worship him. And, the celebrities must talk about how hot he is. And, we'll give you a lot of attention, Ukraine. But we told you how this will end. So it's up to you now to, move your pieces in the right order. And so there you go. This will not end. This Ukraine thing, we will be there for a very long time. And that's just how the sort of elite, unelected leadership wants it.
That is how the New World Order operates. And then they tell people it doesn't exist. You guys are all crazy.
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly. Thank you. I mean, going back to that, starting out the headline and the very first paragraph, basically saying, no. The New World Order, that's a myth. Let me tell you how
rules-based international order does not exist. Here are the rules that you must follow if you'd like to maintain a peace in the international order of things.
So there we go. It was a wonderful little sneak peek into the future of what this whole thing will look like. We might hear reports. We might be given a narrative that things somehow work out, but it's not going to be